for Science B. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your moderator for this round. For our players, let's do quick introductions. Over here, starting to our left, we have Aiden Wright. We have Jonathan Adout and Majan Chowdhury. Starting at the far end here, we have Jack Liu, cool guy, Kevin Adler, and Rajiv Pujara. All right, this is a race to 40, and I have 35 questions, it's just like we had in the semifinals. Good luck to all our competitors. Here we go.
Buzzer check?
Yeah. Yes, buzzer check. So let's start down here with Aiden, Jonathan, Madanj, Jack, Kevin, Rajiv. Great. All right, wonderful. Here we go, toss-up question 1. A ladder operator symbolized A and named for this process is used to decrease the eigenstate of a quantum harmonic oscillator by 1 unit. One form of this process produces 2 gamma photons that travel in opposite directions. Pair production is the inverse. That is correct for 5. That's for Jonathan. Toss up 2. This disease has caused local extinction of species such as the northern long-eared myotis by causing abnormal arousal from hibernation. This condition affects animals of the order
White nose syndrome?
That is correct for 6 to Kevin. Toss up 3. This disease has caused local extinction of species such as the northern. Toss up 3. These functional groups are made from allylic alcohols using diethyl tartrate ligand and a titanium catalyst in a reaction named for Barry Sharpless. The Prislav reaction for producing these functional groups goes through a so-called butterfly mechanism, treating an alkaline with a peroxyacid acid such as MCPBA will produce one of these functional groups, whose simplest example, ethylene oxide, has very high ring strength. For the points, name this functional group consisting of a 3-membered cyclic ether.
Crown ether?
Incorrect. And that's time epoxide. That was Jonathan, -1. Toss up 4. This company designed an extension called Giselle in order to allow for executing Java bytecode, which can operate alongside the compressed thumb instruction set. This company designed security extensions that contain the ability to switch between worlds called Trust Zone. This company creates designs for microcontrollers and real-time controllers featuring their Cortex cores. For the points, name this semiconductor computer company that develops CPU designs used in most phones and was formerly incorrect, -2, formerly known as Advanced
Qualcomm.
Incorrect, -2. Risk Machines. That's time. ARM Holdings PLC.
Rajiv, -2.
Gotcha, I will say the name.
Rajiv, -2.
Yep.
And Madanj.
All right, toss up 5. A mechanism developed by this man describes the oxidation of nitrogen into NOx compounds upon combustion. This scientist proposed that density fluctuations after the Big Bang formed flat ellipsoids of gases, which are his namesake pancakes. In 1966, Igor Novikov and this scientist proposed the concept of primordial black holes formed after the Big Bang. For the points, name this Soviet physicist who codenames a form of inverse Compton scattering that distorts the cosmic microwave background radiation, along with Rashid Suyaev.
Lobachevsky?
I'm sorry, Jonathan, -1.
Tokayev.
Sorry, -1. And that's time. Yakov Zeldovich. And that was Jonathan and Rajiv for -1. Toss up 6. This process produces etherose 4-phosphate, which serves as a precursor to aromatic amino acids such as tryptophan. The non-oxidative phase of this pathway involves a series of isomerization, transodolase and transketolase reactions, while its oxidative phase produces 2 molecules of NADPH from a single unit of glucose 6-phosphate. Running parallel to glycolysis,
phosphorylation.
Incorrect, neg 1, Aiden. This is for the point, what anabolic pathway that produces precursors for nucleotide synthesis, which is named for its phosphorylated 5-carbon sugar intermediates?
Citric acid cycle?
Incorrect, Jonathan, neg 1. And that's time. I was looking for pentose phosphate pathway.
That should be.
And I apologize, Aiden, that was a
Very good.
-2. Toss up 7. Adam's catalyst contains the dioxide of this element, which turns black and becomes catalytic when exposed to hydrogen. A square planar cis complex containing this metal at its center is one of the most commonly used chemotherapy drugs. Reduction potentials are often standardized to this metal.
Silver?
Incorrect, Jonathan, neg 2. Because it makes up the standard hydrogen electron.
Platinum.
Correct, Aiden, for 4 points. Toss up 8. This scientist described his studies of Muriel Bristol's tea tasting abilities in his book, The Design of Experiments, which also includes his exact test for analysis of contingency tables. The variance of the score equals a type of statistical information named for this scientist. This man developed a class of statistical models that analyze differences in means for more than 2 groups, which is the ANOVA family of tests. For the points, name this British geneticist and statistician who names the F test.
Carl Fisher?
Incorrect for -1 for Jonathan. That's time. It's actually Ronald Fisher.
I should have just said.
If you just said Fisher, I could have given it to you. That's perfect. All right. Toss up 9. Bonding in some molecules with this property can be described using the Pimentel-Rundle or the 3C4E model. NXL notation describes molecules with this property, such as Des-Martin periodinane. Molecules with this property include noble gas compounds and compounds like phosphorus pentachloride and sulfur hexafluoride. For the points, molecules made up of main group elements are described by what property when they have more than 8 electrons in balanced shells? Time? The answer is hypervalence. All right, toss up 10 and then we'll do a score check. This point for the solar system is the origin of the International Celestial Reference System. For the Earth-Moon system, this point lies approximately 4...
Center of mass?
Prompt? Sorry, time? Kevin, make 2. 4,700 kilometers from Earth's center. The wobble of stars around this point can be used...
L1.
Incorrect, Aiden, make 2. Can be used to detect exoplanets. For Jupiter, this point lies outside the sun's surface, while for other bodies like Pluto and Charon, it lies between them. For the points, name this center of mass around which 2 or more celestial bodies orbit. And that's time, barycenter. All right, toss up 11. To collect fauna from this region, researchers use a type of sled with a mesh net, which includes a Sherman variety for rough terrain. Organisms in this ecological zone include worms, and much of the decaying matter in this zone is consumed by derivativores. This region is located below the demersal zone and part of the profundal zone. For the points, identify this lowest level in a given body of water, a region that includes the sea floor.
The twilight zone?
Incorrect. Name one for Rajiv.
The Hadal zone.
Incorrect. Name one, Jack. And that's time, the benthic zone, or benthos, if it is accepted. Toss up 12. This language family's x86 variant uses registers like EAX and EBX, while its instructions include MOV for data transfer and JMP for control flow. Programs written in this language family can directly manipulate the stack pointer. That is correct. Smadanch for 6 points. Toss up 13. In one genus, this type, I forgot to do a score check. I will do that after this question. In one genus, a type of these genes called deformed is involved in regulating reaper genes. In chordates, retonic acid signals to these genes during embryonic development, and in insects, such as Drosophila, these genes are regulated by the gap in pair rule genes. Mutations to these genes can cause abnormal body plans, such as extra pairs of legs or wings. For the points, name these genes that code for an animal's body plan along the head-tail axis. Time, Hox genes. All right, at the round number of 13, let's do a score check.
Right now the scores are Aiden 0, Jonathan -1, Smadanch 4, Jack -1, Kevin 4, and Rajiv -4.
Okay. Great, yeah. All right, moving forward, toss up 14. William Morris Davis criticized the namesake of these phenomena for not accounting for how an unbalanced flow can turn into geostrophic equilibrium. This phenomenon is contrasted with a polar type and one named for William Ferrell, which is centered in the mid-latitude.
Like a cell, like a wind cell.
Incorrect, -2 to Jack. In this phenomenon, warm, moist air is drawn into the intertropical convergence.
Hadley cells?
That is correct, Jonathan, for 5. Toss up 15. A version of this algorithm that uses a Fibonacci heap improves the big O of E plus V log V runtime. The similar Bellman-Ford or A-star algorithms.
Dijkstra's algorithm?
That is correct, Jonathan, for 6. Toss up 16. A formalism describing this phenomenon uses airy functions to patch together two solutions at turning points in the WKB approximation. This phenomenon explains the field emission of electrons, which happens at the p-n junction of the Zener diode. George Gamow used this phenomenon to explain alpha decay, as alpha particles would instead require a large amount of energy to escape the nucleus. For the points, name this phenomenon in which a particle crosses a classically...
Quantum tunneling?
That is correct for 4 to Kevin. Toss up 17. The drug tunicamycin blocks a form of this process that targets asparagine residues using a lipid template of dolichol phosphate. This process attaches molecules such as salic acid and GLC-NA-glycinate. The end-linked and O-linked forms of this process take place in the ER and incorrect. Sorry, that's -2 to Rajiv. And the apparatus, respectively, proteins are directed to the lysosome by a form of this process that attaches mannose-6-phosphate. For the points, name this cellular process in which proteins are covalent covalently modified with sugars such as glucose.
Post-translational modifications?
Incorrect, -1 to Jonathan. That's time, it's glycosylation. Syllables were switched. Toss up 18. Changing this quantity can be done by adding barium chloride and sulfuric acid in the McFarland standards. This condition can be found using the Jackson-Campbell method, and it can be measured using formazine nephelometric units. In bodies of water, a disc with alternating black and white.
Turbidity?
That is correct for 5 points to Kevin. Toss up 19. Examples of these things labeled with the letters A through K are part of a set named for Fraunhofer. These things are shifted in the presence of an electric field for,
Spectral lines?
that is correct for 6 to Kevin. Toss up 20, then a score check. Movement proteins were first discovered in studies of this virus. Chemist Wendell Meredith Stanley shared a Nobel Prize for being the first to crystallize this virus. Rosalind Franklin correctly claimed that this virus, with a hollow rod-like shape, also had a single-stranded RNA, and it was the first pathogen to be classified as a virus. For the points, name this virus that causes colored blotches on the leaves of a plant.
Tobacco mosaic.
That is correct to Rajiv for 4 points. All right, score check.
We have Aiden 0, Jonathan 9, Vedamsh 4, Jack -3, Kevin 19, and Rajiv -2.
Cool. All right, toss up 21. Quasi-periodic sudden relaxation events and drop-offs in temperatures within these devices are known as their sawteeth. These devices rely on both an internal electric current and a powerful external magnetic coil, unlike a stellarator. These devices can heat hydrogen to several millions of degrees Celsius, making them leading candidates for production of practical fusion energy. That is correct. 5 points to Kevin. Toss up 22. Materials with this property contain phases named for lasagna, spaghetti, and gnocchi are known as nuclear pasta.
Neutron stars?
Incorrect, -2 to Madanch. Matter with this property is modeled as an ideal Fermi gas. Matter with this property avoids contraction due to gravity by forcing fermions into higher energy states. For the points, name this property that names a pressure preventing.
Electron degeneracy?
That is correct for 4 points to Kevin. Toss up 23. 2 sigma bonds and a pi bond are created in the inverse electron demand form of this reaction, which may involve heteroatoms. A form of this reaction between cyclopentadiene and maleic anhydride favors its endo configuration, with electron withdrawing groups pointed inwards, and is used to produce derivatives of cyclohexene. For the points, name this 4+2 cycloaddition reaction between a DNA and a dinophile, which is
Diels older reaction?
that is correct. 4 points to Kevin. Toss up 24. The Rhipidistia group of this clade involved a lymph heart to circulate bodily fluids. The evolution of this clade is explained by Alfred Romer's shrinking water hole hypothesis. This clade is defined by the presence of a fully articulated appendicular skeleton supporting limb buds. In 2004, fossils of Tiktaalik were discovered that showed the transition of this clade to becoming land-dwelling animals. Coelacanths, lungfish, and tetrapods are the only extant examples of, for the points, what group of bony fish that are contrasted with the ray-finned fish.
Stickleback?
Incorrect, -1 to Jonathan. Time, lobe-finned fish. Or Starco tiergi, lobe-finned fish. 25 and then a score check. This mathematician named a New Frontiers Prize awarded yearly by the Breakthrough Prize Board. With Roya Beheshti Stavra, this mathematician wrote elementary number theory challenging problems. This mathematician, who linked dynamical systems and topology in the magic wand theorem, also worked on type-Muller theory and is best known for her work on moduli spaces of Riemann surfaces. For the points, name this Iranian mathematician the first woman to win the Fields Medal. Miriam Mirzakhani. All right, that's 25.
Okay. We have Aiden 0, Jonathan 8, Adansh 2, Jack -3, Kevin 32, and Rajiv -2.
All right, great. Toss up 26. James Hall and James Dwight Dana created a now unused explanation for this process called geocycling. Synechromatic events take place as part of this process. Leopold von Busch classified this process as an event by marking the times between the oldest undeformed rock and youngest deformed rock. Creating belts on the crust, convergent plate margins are the site of, for the points.
Subduction.
Incorrect, -2 to Jack. What process in which a plate rises upwards to create mountains?
Orogeny.
That is correct for 3. Takes you to 35. Toss up 27. The dynamic variety of this quantity can be
Viscosity.
incorrect, -2 to Jonathan. Can be measured by placing material inside of a rotating cylinder, while another method involves tilting a box of particles. This quantity can be approximated by a relationship stating that the coefficient of static friction is roughly equal to the tangent of this quantity. This quantity is measured at 40 degrees for ashes. For the points, name this quantity, which is the largest angle at which granular materials like sand can pile up without slumping downwards. Time and angle of repose. Toss up 28. This process can be modeled using the Polanyi potential theory, which typically applies at higher pressures than the Bronnauer-Emmett-Teller theory. A model for this process calculates the fractional occupancy as a ratio of volumes of gas and is called the Langmuir isotherm. Zeolites and activated carbon have a large surface area.
Absorption.
That is correct to Madanch for 4. Toss up 29. This person was nominated for the Nobel Prizes in chemistry and physics a combined 49 times but never won. This physicist, the namesake of the element atomic number 109, codenamed the element protactinium. After escaping Nazi Germany, she helped demonstrate that barium isotopes.
Venus Binder.
That is correct for 5 to Aiden. Toss up 30. 3 types of this rhytite are extant: the northern, dwarf, and southern, or double-wattled species. This animal appears on the coat of arms of West Papua, and one of these animals, which was being held in captivity.
Fly.
Incorrect, -2 to Aiden. Once fatally attacked a Florida man with the nails found on the innermost toes of its 2 feet. One of these birds kicked a tourist off a cliff in its native southern hemisphere range in 2012.
Cassowary.
That is correct for 5 points to Jack. That's 30. Score check.
Okay. We have Aiden with 3, Jonathan with 6, Madanch with 6, Jack 0, Kevin 35, and Rajiv -2.
Okay. All right. We will break all ties if we have them at the end here. Toss up 31. In a debate, this philosopher disputed Thomas Kuhn's emphasis on scientific revolutions for creating a historical law out of past events. This philosopher criticized induction by stating that no type of logic can ever produce more knowledge than deduction in his principle of critical rationalism. This philosopher claimed that for a statement to be scientific, if it must be falsifiable. That is correct for 5 points to Aiden. Toss-up 32. This mission was able to observe line-like features called tiger stripes on Enceladus. This mission captured an image of the Earth and the Moon in a photograph titled "The Day the Earth Smiled." This mission, which included a landing on the moon Titan, finally...
Cassini?
That is correct for 5 points to Jack. Toss-up 33. Dirac cones within this substance produce the chiral half-integer quantum Hall effect. When two pieces of this substance are arranged at the magic angle of 1.1 degrees, it exhibits superconductivity. Nanoribbons of this substance can be produced by unzipping another material. This substance can be produced by applying a piece of Scotch. That is correct for 5 points to Kevin. Toss-up 34. An axiomatic system is complete if every one of these statements is also a theorem. One of these statements is represented by a double turnstile symbol indicating it is a logical consequence of the empty set. The statement P or not P is the simplest example of these statements, which include the law of excluded middle. Contradictions are the opposite of these statements since they always evaluate them.
Tautology.
That is correct for 4 points to Rajiv. Final question, toss-up 35. Rough and smooth strains of a bacterium in this genus were used in Griffith's transforming principle experiments to demonstrate genetic transfer. The Mutant and Sabrinus species of this genus cause most instances of dental cavities. An alpha hemolytic species from this genus is responsible for most cases of bacterial pneumonia. For the points, name this bacterial genus whose group A Pyogenes species causes scarlet fever and a namesake throat infection. That is correct for 3 to Rajiv. All right, we do have a tie that we need to break. 2 ties. That is correct. Okay, so for this first one, only Jonathan and Madansh. This question is only for the 2 of you. Everybody else just sit back, okay? Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, okay, this is for 3rd place. All right, here we go. This technique relies on the chromophore 7 hydroxyphenoxazone extracted from lichen species like Ricella. Congo red and methyl orange can substitute for the main compound in this test, which changes color at pH 7. Incorrect?
Litmus test.
Correct. So Madansh, you are placed in 3rd place. All right, and then our tie break for, what do we got? 4th place.
5th place.
5th place. Goodness. Here we go. Just the 2 of you. To prevent the spread of this genus through contact with pets, the FDA has imposed the...
Toxoplasma?
Incorrect. Imposed the 4-inch regulation on turtle sales. Diseases caused by systemic infections of this genus can be identified by characteristic rose spots. Drinking water contaminated with members of this genus can cause enteric fever, such as paratyphoid and typhoid fever. Along with Campylobacter, this genus of gram-negative bacteria is the most common cause of food poisoning. For the points, name this bacterial genus associated with raw chicken. Incorrect, it's Salmonella.
Oh my God.
All right, we got another one. Radiation sickness is diagnosed by repeated instances of this procedure every 3 hours after exposure. Automated analyzers for this procedure rely on the Coulter principle, which relates size and volume to changes in electrical impedance. This procedure aids in diagnosing conditions such as thrombocytopenia and leukemia using metrics like basophil concentration, WBC differential, and platelet concentration. For the points, name this thorough panel of diagnostic medical tests that include measures of hemoglobin level and hematocrit. Time, it's a complete blood count or a CBC panel. I need extra questions.
Keep it going. Don't let the competition end.
The hotel eventually needs to know.
This is literally yeah.
Retry.
That'll be amazing. Oh, God. Chicago Open Trash is alternately amazing and terrible. And Terry's butt's awesome.
Someone's getting them.
Great.
Yeah, no, I knew it. I waited. You're true. Making jokes. You know, this happened once where they walked in and they said, "Oh, please, time for your form." Said, "Okay, guys, it's done." I believe that you did. Yes.
Whoever can get my way upstairs on the top floor.
Oh yeah, that I hate you. Yeah. Yes. Some of those. Yeah, I can't get you. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I've got questions. Let's wrap this up. All right, here we go. Buzzer's clear. In the Cuban solanodon, this substance is composed of overexpressed kallikreins and triggers vasodilation. A type of this substance composed primarily of defensin-like peptides is created by the genus Ornithorhynchus and causes excruciating edemas in humans upon contact. The only known type of this substance found in primates is secreted by glands on the forelimbs of the slow loris. In the platypus, this substance is administered using spurs on the rear feet.
Venom?
Correct. We have a more to give out.
Right on.
There we go. Get the banner.
All right, finishing in 6th place, we have Rajiv. Finishing in 6th place, we have Jack. Finishing in 4th place, we have Jonathan. Finishing in 3rd place, we have Madan. And finishing in 2nd place, we have Aiden. And our national champion for science B, we have Kevin.
First national title since 2013. Way to come back. All right. Congratulations. With authority. All right. Okay, in about 60 seconds, we'll commence with the draft of the National History Bowl.